So I had come from a much larger organization, and here I was now within this smaller team. So it was a fun period for me in a lot of ways because I got a lot of more hands-on experience, and but also was very much looking forward to expanding my team. I had some great support.
This is Evolve CPG, a community of purpose-driven, sustainable product brand leaders who not only believe it better, but actively pursue it. I'm your host, Gage Mitchell, and today we're speaking with Jamie Lamonde, founder and CEO of the Kindship Group, about her journey from working in marketing at mission-driven organic brands to launching her own agency.
Hello, I'm Jamie Lamonde. I am the founder and CEO of the Kindship Group.
Awesome. I'm excited to have you on, Jamie. Thanks for joining me. For the audience, Jamie and I go way back. We've been working together across various brands for, 10 plus years or something like that. And always been one of my favorite collaborators. So I'm excited to have you on this call. One thing I wanted to kind of touch on is that we've both shared some space in Wisconsin, which is where I started Modern Species and where you're based. But I also know that you didn't start in Wisconsin. So remind me a little bit about your journey to Wisconsin, because I didn't grow up there either. So we both kind of found our way to Wisconsin at some point.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting story and really fun for me to reflect upon. I've been in Wisconsin now for about 18 years. So it definitely feels like home. But I grew up on the East Coast, and moving around a little bit. And after college, I did a lot of hiking. I went to the Appalachian Trail, hiked.
Nice.
Yeah, I hiked Maine into New Hampshire. And my hiking partner and I at the time decided to head to the Colorado Trail. So we made a move to Colorado. Well, first we went and visited and hiked a bit, and then we decided to move out there. So that was a big move and really exciting time of life. And at that stage of life, I was very much, a young environmentalist and loved to spend a lot of time outdoors. And was also looking ahead to how my career was going to unfold. But I really wanted my career to unfold in a way that was very aligned with my personal values. And I didn't totally know what that looked like yet.
Makes sense.
So I started out, I actually worked for a natural home building company.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I was living in Durango at the time, and they were based in Pagosa Springs, a lovely couple that ran a company called Earth Block Inc. And yeah, that's another story I'll have to tell you more about sometime. But anyway, I loved working with them. They were a family-run business, and they were just doing really great, important work. And I actually met someone who also worked at that company who shared a lot of the same dreams that I had. We fell in love. And he was actually already looking to move to Wisconsin. And I had a dream at that time to own land. And I didn't know what that was going to look like. I just thought I would start kind of saving, and that would be something that I would work on. And I knew that I wanted to live as sustainably as I could, and what that, meant to me. A couple of, really key moments, I think, that drew me to that were the woman that I worked for at the natural home building company. She was incredibly food sensitive, like just off the charts. And at that time, I had never met anyone with food allergies before. And even today, now looking back, I've never met anyone who is as food sensitive as she was. And so she really taught me a lot through getting to know her, about the impact that food really has in your body, and what organic food really was, and why it was so important in her life. And so that was the beginning of me really making the connection between my environmentalism and food production. And of course, as we know, food production is a huge use of our natural resources. But it was my first kind of heart connection into it. And then she had a very, very close friend named Marion, who was an organic gardener. And we became friends, and she actually was moving her garden to the woman who owned the natural home building company to her home. So I helped Marion actually move all of her vegetables, pack the pickup truck up, and to make the journey over to the new location for the garden. And it was just at that age, it was just a very impactful experience, and kind of gave me that other side of getting my hands into the soil, and the love of actually growing food was born. So those two women, the woman from the natural home building company, her name's Nora. So between Nora and Marion, I just had this sort of like very potent moment in life, which at the time I had no idea how much it was really influencing me. So anyway, when I met Dan and we decided to have a relationship, and he was looking to Wisconsin for like a big move, I was really open to that. I really liked the idea of kind of embarking on an adventure that could lead to owning land and starting to build that sustainable lifestyle. And then one other thing I'll add is that we had, I was from the East Coast, right? And so to me, the Midwest, I had a friend growing up who, went and spent summers in Chicago with her dad. I knew that there was this big city, but mostly in my perception at that age, growing up, was that the Midwest was very flat and a lot of cornfields. And luckily, in my early 20s, I had gone and backpacked Pictured Rocks with some friends. And so when it was proposed to me to make a move to Wisconsin, I actually had a mental image that it was much more diverse and beautiful landscape. So it was like just the perfect set of experiences that made me want to just pack it up and make a move to a place I had never visited. So yeah. So anyway, that's a long answer, but there's a lot of pieces there. So yeah.
Well, that's cool. Well, first of all, I didn't even know you could move a garden.
I know,
That's
right?
pretty cool. That was just kind of like the transplant all the plants to a new location. I guess it makes sense because you can move plants.
It was a pretty interesting process.
That's exciting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess I didn't know that your path to Wisconsin was also your path into organic, which is actually a good segue, because one of the other questions I wanted to talk to you about was how you ended up working with Organic Valley, which is obviously, for those who don't know, which is in Wisconsin, in kind of the farmlands of Wisconsin, or at least the headquarters is. And that's actually how we originally met, is working on some projects together through Organic Valley. But I don't know how you started working there and what that journey was like, landing in Wisconsin and then somehow getting to work with such an amazing company.
Yeah, great. That's fun to think and talk about. Well, before we left Colorado, I started doing some research about the area, and I was able to find there were some hints, for example, we had found the region in Wisconsin where we moved to because my partner was looking at topography maps, and he could see that it was much more hilly, and it's called the driftless region here. So it means that it was unglaciated, and it was all of the landscape was preserved. And so we knew it was a special place from that standpoint. And then we started to see some things in the community. This is a very rural area where I live, but there is, a Waldorf school here, one of the few rural-based Waldorf schools. There's kind of a pretty, and then again, you have to remember I moved here 18 years ago. And even at that time, there was a pretty alternative medicine, holistic practitioner base here. And then, of course, I found Organic Valley was headquartered here. And right away when I found them, I kind of fell in love from a distance through the website and thought, okay, this is really up my alley, right? And so they actually had this very cool program at the time called Rootstock. And it was sort of the call to action of the website. So I signed up and I got this beautiful packet in the mail at home in Colorado. And it had this, everything about it was just very mission and heartfelt and informative. And it really felt like they were really leading a movement that I wanted to be a part of. So we were moving to Wisconsin for our lifestyle, to get our lifestyle aligned with what we were after. And so we made the move and then got ourselves settled and bought the farm. And then I proceeded to be determined to get a job at Organic Valley. So at that
manifest it.
Yes, exactly. And I was just very, I still am, but I was very idealistic and very passionate. And so I just believed that was what was going to happen next. And so I would literally go in. So at that time, it's a little hard to picture, but Organic Valley is headquartered in a very small town called Lafarge, Wisconsin. And it's a town of probably, 750 residents, very small. And they were their offices were kind of scattered all up and down Main Street in this little town. So, you had like the marketing department in the old cheese building, and you had the accounting department down the street above the lawyers' offices, and so on and so forth. So it was kind of like this really rural, super cool campus. And one of the main buildings was the first building that Organic Valley had purchased in the beginning, and they had a retail store there. And so you could go in, it was very tiny. Now it's a much more developed, like, little grocery store. But back then it was just like a room you would walk into, and there were coolers. And then there was this big window with a woman who sat there named Becky, and her title was the Director of First Impressions. And I would go in.
Nice.
So that was how I met Organic Valley. I went into the retail store and I walked up to Becky and I introduced myself, and I was ready to get a job. And do you have any openings? So anyway, flash forward, I ended up getting hired, met some amazing people that I joined onto the team with. And I started there about 6 months after I was settled in Wisconsin. Yeah.
Nice. And you started in the marketing department?
Yeah, I did.
Or the mission department?
I started in the marketing department. I actually started working there for a person named Joel. And I was like a marketing assistant. So I was hired to help out with a lot of different things. And then very shortly after I started working, the director of the marketing department, she was moving her daughter to college. And I had heard all about, there's this woman, Teresa, who was going to be coming back to Wisconsin soon, who lived in Portland and was moving her daughter to college. And she arrived, one day. I probably had worked there maybe 2 or 3 weeks. And we just really, really hit it off immediately. We were able to share, Appalachian Trail stories, and we just had a lot in common. And I ended up transitioning to working directly for her. And then I worked for her for 11 years on her team. So I was there, I kind of grew up at Organic Valley. I started working there when I was 23. So I have a lot of different experiences, and I held different roles, and really just as the company grew, I was also personally growing up as well.
I was going to say you kind of grew up together, because the company also scaled quite a bit during your time there too. How big was it roughly when you started?
When I started, it was about, I think it was about 125 million in sales per year, or 150, something like that. And then we had about 125 employees. And yeah, I'm not remembering the farmer count at the time, but it was under 1,000 farmer members. Yeah, and so that was 2003. And then when I left in 2014, we were approaching $1 billion a year in revenue, with well over 1,000 farmer members and more employees, and the whole mission had obviously grown amazingly. Yeah.
Yeah, what was that like being kind of on the inside during that growth? Was it chaotic? Was it organized? Was everyone just like excited and working their butts off to get there?
Yes, all of that. Everything that you just said.
All of the above.
Yeah, it was really amazing. And, I think it was my first it was my experience. It felt like normal, it was all I knew, is what I'm trying to say. And so, but looking back now, it was incredible and phenomenal. And, we always said we were a social experiment disguised as a business. And that is 100% what it was, because the mission is so strong. The mission is to save family farming family farming culture through organic farming. And so that was at the root of everything that we did every day. And you felt that every day when you were at work. And that's really what fueled all of us through managing growth and being in an environment that needed to have systems, but also needed to be nimble and creative and innovative, because we were always trying to make one marketing dollar into 10. We had a grassroots approach. We were a marketing farmer cooperative. We didn't always have millions and millions of dollars. We had healthy budgets, but we needed to be creative through all of that time. And a lot of it was about relationships and partnerships, and finding other mission-aligned people and organizations to work with through our marketing efforts. So that was really, really fun. And there's so many stories. So yeah, I would say it was a great combination of a growing organization that was very good at continuing to create systems, and a little bit of healthy, chaotic. Very busy.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, and I think what's interesting too is the such heavy overlap between mission and marketing, or mission and PR there. I think for a while, like the department you were working in was literally just called like mission and messaging, or something like that. And it was just so cool that all the different scrappy things Organic Valley was trying to do. Like, I think you even had like a YouTube channel or like some sort of Frog TV kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then, like you mentioned, Rootstock, that publication.
Yes.
There were festivals like the Kickapoo County Fair. Like there was just so many different things that Organic Valley was involved in that was all just tied to mission, but was also tied to marketing, but not in like a inauthentic way. It was just
right.
You could tell Organic Valley was just like living their roots.
Yeah, that's right. And we were the marketing department, for many, many years. And then the chief marketing executive, Teresa, she partially retired into the mission executive role. And that's really when they carved out this mission and messaging department. And that was really to keep that mission very core to the organization, and keep the messaging sacred and held in a very intentional way. So at that stage, we were continuing to direct all of the public relations efforts and messaging, and internal messaging trainings, ambassador development, crisis communications. We still were really engaged with the strategic philanthropy for the co-op. And then we were still doing a lot of very fun mission-driven marketing campaigns in partnership with the marketing department. So it was always like that my whole career there, and it just seemed to continue to evolve in that direction of like what you're describing.
And it obviously worked somehow with all that growth. That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
And what's funny too is alongside all of that fast growth and everyone working their butts off, you decided to start a magazine.
Yep.
So tell us,
Oh,
tell us how that happened.
okay. Yeah, right. That does sound kind of crazy when you put it like that. Okay, so let's see. I'm just trying to think about when that was. So in 2009, I was talking with some friends about the Edible Community's publications. So Edible Publications, there's, I think, about more than 80 titles in North America currently, and they're all independently owned and operated. And at that time, they had been around and were becoming more known and growing. And my friend really loved Edible Portland, which at the time was run by EcoTrust and Deborah Kane. And it was a real inspiration for her. And we just loved what it represented and the topics and just the engagement of the storytelling. And we were just kind of talking about it one day. And then we asked ourselves, well, why in the world don't we have one representing Wisconsin? You know, here we are, this total local foods leader. You know, Madison, Wisconsin has the largest producer only farmers market in the country. It's just, you know, a fertile ground for, you know, in the movement, in the local foods movement. And so that just led for me asking more and more questions. Well, what would it take to have one? And so I got in touch with the founder of Edible Communities, Tracy Ryder, and her partner, Carol Toplian, and found out what it would take. And then I proceeded to have many, many conversations with leaders in the local foods movement in our region, and made a huge decision to go for it. And at that point in my life, I was really looking for just another very creative adventure. I was very attracted to doing that project because I knew that it would take me out of my comfort zone. I would learn a bunch of new skills, and I would get to meet really interesting people and entrepreneurs and people who were looking at things differently and really breaking the mold in a lot of different areas in the food movement, in the food industry, and so forth, and beverage and just agriculture in general. So we went for it, and it was really a labor of love and a really amazing group of people that came together to make that happen. And it was, I was, for a while, I was kind of selling a dream because not everyone had seen these publications. There was nothing, you know, I was literally like going into meetings, showing people Edible Portland and Edible Austin and, you know, but there was a lot of community support. I think at that time, people knew that storytelling and education around why you need to know the story behind your food really matters, and that it can actually change social behavior. So there was enough community support that I felt comfortable diving in. So we published our first issue in the summer of 2010, and then published quarterly with the seasons for 10 years. And as you can imagine, there's just tons and tons of stories within that. But it was incredible, the whole experience, and I would do it all over again. Yeah. So
was that
yeah.
technically your first jump into entrepreneurism?
Yes. Yeah. I had done a little bit of freelance work prior to that, but this was like the real deal. Yeah. Yeah. And also, you know, with publishing, I was publisher and editor in chief. So I held a lot of roles. I had just the foundation of my roles was varied from day one. And then I also held other roles within as we went on for the next 10 years. And it was really neat too, because the core team of Edible Madison stayed together the whole time. So we had a really solid group of contributors, photographers, and then our core publishing team Actually one of our Kindship Group colleagues, Jim Clausia, he was the creative director and lead photographer for Edible Madison for that whole time. So yeah, and then last year in 2020, after a couple years of cultivating and finding the right partners, I sold the magazine to two amazing women in Madison who are going to carry it on now. And that was a big transition for me in my life and my profession. I live really rurally. I'm about 2 hours from Madison. And so the mission of the magazine was really to connect a food shed. And I was in the more agricultural, rural part of that. So I obviously traveled a lot back and forth to Madison. But I always had this vision that one day I would pass the baton to people who lived in Madison. And then it would have this whole other second life, getting to do it, from the other angle. So it was very exciting for me to find partners who wanted to take that and run with it. So 1 year ago, this last weekend, I passed the baton right as COVID was starting to really hit our lives. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's both exciting and scary to hand off your baby.
Yes.
Something you just nurtured and raised for 10 years and send them off to school or send them
Right.
off to their new parents or something.
Yeah, and it was a real art of, it's like an art of letting go and knowing that you're letting go so that something can grow in ways that you maybe wouldn't have grown it. That was, I think, what really kind of inspired me through that transition. I think getting fresh infusion of energy and perspectives is really important in business. And that was the way that I think that it could manifest for Edible Madison,
And so you've got this crazy busy job at Organic Valley, you're publisher of a magazine, and you decided to take on some extra work on the side to help Farmer Direct Organic launch.
That's right. Yes. You're really painting me as crazy.
Yeah, the entrepreneurial gene is strong in you, whether or not you knew it.
That's right.
Just the desire to keep doing more. So I guess talk a little bit about how you ended up working with Farmer Direct and what.
Oh, that's fun. Sure. Well, when I founded the magazine, I started up Heirloom Marketing and Media in order to just, found the magazine. And right around that time, like literally as I was getting the magazine up and going and getting all the structures in place, before we ever published our first copy, I met the founder of Farmer Direct Co-op. His name is Jason Freeman. And Farmer Direct Co-op, which is based in Canada, they were an associative member of Crop Cooperative, which is the co-op of Organic Valley brand. And we were having our annual farmer membership meeting, and he was there representing his co-op. And we got to know each other. And he had a dream at that time that he really, they had been primarily a bulk sales of grains and legumes, all organic, all from family farms, all very transparent process, and very much a fair trade leader. And so, but he had a dream that they could create a consumer brand. So he asked me if I would help with that. And I said, sure, I'd love to help with that. That sounds really fun. So we went through a whole process with focus groups and lots of steps to decide on what the name would be. And we ended up sticking with Farmer Direct Organic. And we ended up launching the first products. And that was eventually a project that we got to work on together, which was very fun. Yeah.
And continue to work on together as it continues to grow and explore its future, which is always exciting. That's one of the things I love about working with brands, is that it's always a journey. There's not you start and then stop and then that's static from there. Like with consumer product brands, it's always what's next and how do we continue pushing our mission forward? How do we continue solving more of our customers' problems, and what does that look like? And it's just always a fun creative challenge. So.
Yeah, totally. I know it's interesting to think about that it's been over 10 years that we've been involved with Farmer Direct and where things are now. And it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, indeed. So at one point you ended up kind of leaving Organic Valley. You've obviously already mentioned that you handed off Edible as well, but I know that there's a little bit more in that story before Kindship. So you ended up working with another really awesome company, Wonder State Coffee, formerly known as Kickapoo Coffee. And I think one of the things that I think is really cool about your time there, not only did you really grow e-commerce sales, which I think a lot of people listening to this will be like, what? How'd you do that? But you also helped them rebrand, and not just like a slight package refresh, but literally rename, change the signage across all the stores and the website, update packaging, like the whole thing. And I think that's really intimidating for a lot of companies, a lot of brands, because they're worried that they'll lose all their brand equity in that transition, and they're worried that they'll lose a bunch of customers. So I think people would love to hear what that experience was like, how you can take a well-known, well-loved brand and shift it into a new, well-loved, well-known brand.
Yeah.
Without taking a big hit in the process.
So I started out at Kickapoo Coffee, like you said, that was their name. They were about 11 years old. They were 11 years into business at that point, and established. They had recently redone their packaging, their beautiful kind of evolution of their 12-ounce offerings, and they had opened their very first retail location. They're first off, they're a roastery in Broco, Wisconsin, and then they decided to open a retail space in Milwaukee. So they had had a lot going on the year before I started. They had started the Milwaukee Cafe. They had rebranded their packaging, which really kind of took them to the next level and really elevated the brand. And so when I came in, they were very interested in now taking all of that work and relaunching their website. And so that was really one of my first projects, was to recreate their e-commerce presence, like you mentioned. And I got to work with you on that project, which was a lot of fun. And just re-envisioning what that could look like, and elevating the user experience, and just overall making the shopping more fluid. We had some new subscription offerings that we put into play, and just really worked hard to make that site really perform and be and also to poise for growth, because the idea is that it would be a website that the engine behind that website would really take us out several years, if not more. So that was our first project. The company was a small team. So I'd come from a much larger organization, and here I was now within this smaller team. So it was a fun period for me in a lot of ways, because I got a lot of more hands-on experience, and but also was very much looking forward to expanding my team. I had some great support, but about a year in, I brought on Shizue Roshadashi to my team, and her role eventually grew into brand and marketing manager. And a bit into us working together, she really started asking some really important questions about the name of the company, Kickapoo Coffee. And I think, obviously this part of the conversation runs really deep and probably deserves its own conversation. But for the purposes of this conversation, I'll focus a little bit more on the rebrand itself. But we went through a really introspective journey as a leadership team at Kickapoo Coffee at that time, to make the decision to change the name of the company, because we agreed that we were appropriating the name of the Kickapoo Nation. and in a lot of ways benefiting from the fact that they were a lesser known tribes. And so, that was a process, it was a process for the founders of the company to um, have that realization and really embrace it. As you can imagine, that was not an easy process, but the thing is that they knew that was the right thing to do. And it was, and the company at its core is a very deeply mission driven company. And so this then evolved it for them into coming into more alignment in their mission and evolving more closely into what their mission really was meant to be. So we've embarked on a complete, utter overhaul rebrand. and we renamed Wonder State Coffee, which was a process for picking. And, we had to handle, every aspect needed to be, changed over. And what we did is the communication strategy was that we let the public know early on that we were going to be changing things over. We acknowledged upfront the appropriation and what we were going to do to fix it. And and so, when you talk about bringing people along in communication, that was the intention there, is that, we're embarking on something that we don't even know entirely what it's going to take. And this is huge and has all kinds of implications for the business. But what matters most is that we're going to make this change. It's the right thing to do. And we're going to communicate about it. And we're probably going to make mistakes along the way. Right. But that to me is authentic communication and marketing and is the correct approach. So we did that, and then we just dove in and worked, we worked as quickly as we could. As you can imagine, it was a multi-tentacled project, is an understatement. At that point we had three retail cafes, plus the roastery, plus all of the, public facing marketing platforms and all of it. And we had to, develop the brand from the ground up, taking and obviously infusing what we had in the past, but really recreating.
Super big undertaking. And it sounds like communication was the strategy for making that rollout, seamless or at least effective. Were there any hiccups along the relaunch?
Well, I think, our intention was to move as quickly as we could as a marketing team. It wasn't always quick. I think that in all, we ended up taking more than a year to launch the new name. And I think, had we done things a little differently, maybe just doing a little more revealing of the new name quicker. We were trying to make everything sort of cohesively roll out so as to take care of everything at once and just be able to move on beyond the name Kickapoo Coffee. Yeah. And so what happened was we were very close to doing that, and then COVID came on, and then we had delays with packaging availability and all of these components. And, our community who was following along with this, there became a dynamic tension there of, well, what is taking so long? Is this really, is this genuine? Is, all those intentions we had set out with then became under question because we were taking longer than what felt good for us and for everybody else. And so we pivoted at that point and decided to go ahead and switch over without having everything totally in place. We were still close. We ended up announcing, I think in I can't remember, maybe late May, early June, releasing, and we sort of turned the switch on our social media and got everything lined out. And then I think it was probably a month or two later that the packaging then came. But it was really important for us to to be listening and being sensitive. And the founders really stepped up at that time and took responsibility for some of the holdups. You know, the sense of urgency. You know, when you look at just from a cultural standpoint, being a white male-owned company, keeping focus on the sensitivity and the sense of urgency was not always achieved in the way that the team ultimately wanted it to be. So, you know, again, it was a very complex and deep process to go through this, and you know, mistakes are made along the way for sure. And the best you can hope for when there's mistakes like that is that everybody is learning and that everybody is growing from it, and that is contributing hopefully to making the world a better place. But it felt really, the day that we switched everything over and our cafes were able to take down signs, it was a very exciting moment to be able to do that and move forward with the new brand.
Yeah, I bet those big projects take so long that by the time they launch to the public, you're almost like just tired of looking at it internally, and it's just like, I just want to get this out to the world. Like, I want to quit like manipulating little pixels or like tweaking little things or seeing all these executions, and I'm excited to give birth to this new baby and share it with everyone. So that must have been just a big moment on so many levels. And it seems, you know, at least from my perspective, it seems like it's gone pretty well too, which hopefully will give a lot of brands that are listening to this some courage if they're, you know, about to embark on any big changes to their brand, whether it's just a package overhaul or a refresh or anything else like that. It is possible. You just got to do it strategically and roll it out with your community. Sounds like one of the big takeaways.
For sure.
If you try to hold it really close and do this big reveal, sometimes that can backfire, like maybe like a Tropicana, you know, rebrand from back in the day. It's just one of the well-known case studies of they launched their new orange juice packaging and it just got rejected by the consumer market, and they had to like take steps backwards. But if you kind of work alongside the community, work with them to be vulnerable and be authentic and kind of share your updates and roll it out with the community, then, you know, you have higher chances.
Yeah. And I think, you know, just to add to that, just that it really is progress, not perfection. And when you think you're communicating enough, you always can be communicating more. And I think now more than ever, people want communication. They want to feel included. And that is not always, I think culturally in business, we're not always, like as a business culture, we're not hardwired to be vulnerable, to, you know, be softer, to communicate the behind the scenes. And so I think my hope is that business culture continues to shift in that direction, because then people can actually come along with your mission. And I think in that way that you're really creating like lifelong consumer partners.
Beautiful. I love it. And now you're on to your next phase of your entrepreneurial journey with the Kindship Group. So tell us a little bit more about what spurred that idea and what it's been like to move from working mostly in-house to all of a sudden now being on agency side and, you know, pulling together this amazing team of collaborators and starting to bring your wisdom to a lot more brands and companies.
Yeah, it's been really exciting to create Kindship Group. You know, I've gotten to work with so many amazing people throughout all of this that we've covered. So my vision was, how can I bring all of those people together to do work together and have fun and really create change and help entrepreneurs and teams really grow their mission and continue to grow their impact in the world. So I knew for sure that I wanted to keep helping businesses in this way. And I wanted to be able to help more people. And, you know, when you're working on the inside of a company, my energy, even though I've had multiple things going on at once in my career, for sure, you're still pouring, 110% of your energy into the brand when you're on the inside. And I think what is exciting to me to now be more on the agency side or the outside is that I still get to feel like a complete team member with the brands and organizations that we're working with. But I get to have, more of those relationships and help more people, and then get to collaborate with, people like yourself, and to really bring our skill sets. Another piece of the vision with Kindship Group is that we're really able to meet businesses where they're at. We are very much core a marketing agency, but I really am just calling us a full service agency, because we also offer strategic planning and sales strategy and impact services. And, we're really here to help however we can, and stay nimble and collaborative to be able to bring talent in to match needs. I think too, from having been on the inside for so long, I know a lot about the necessity for prioritization and the sensitivities to budget. And I really wanted to create something that could also meet people where they're at there too, to make sure that we're able to customize work to really come in and say, okay, well, here are all of your challenges. Let's now together prioritize them so that this can feel sustainable for your organization. So that type of work is really, that figuring that out, getting that puzzle together is really fun for me.
Nice. Yeah, that's awesome. It's I've always wanted to build out some type of creative, collaborative kind of agency model as well. I think the thing that always held me back is that all my creative friends that were agency side were all off doing their own specific niche. So they were like in outdoor active lifestyle, or they were in hospitality, or they were in, tech or something like that. So it never really made sense to build some sort of collaborative with all those disparate fields. Like, we were all experts in different things. So when you announced that you were kind of going agency side and building out a collaborative, I was just super excited to, merge or to join up in that and help, bring that to life, but also just to have Modern Species become part of a collaborative where we all get to share in our mission of helping sustainable, mission-driven brands and product companies help them grow their brands, but also, through that, grow their mission. So I was super excited about that, and it's been really fun collaboration process so far, and I'm excited to see where it goes. So I'm curious, what's your vision? Share your vision for Kindship in the future with our audience.
Yeah. Well, I'm definitely in a very curious and observatory role in Kindship Group. I have vision for it. And I'm also just so excited to see how it unfolds. It definitely feels like a co-collaboration with the universe. In a lot of ways, just seeing like the types of entrepreneurs and businesses that are starting to come in and ask for help and collaborate with. There's so much in business that can be so calculated and so strategic, and then there's also just the natural flow of things too. But we are starting out Kindship as the full service agency. And what we're going to do with that is just really sustainably build it. Our first and foremost priority is creating really good experiences for our customers and really giving them the attention and intentionality that they deserve. So we're not, we definitely have growth plans, but they're centered around, being able to do the work in the right way. And our workplace culture is really important to me. I really want to, and I'm probably a lot of people listening, we've all worked in different work environments. And this was an opportunity for me to step back and say, well, what am I trying to create here? We spend a lot of our time in our work, and like a lot of our time. And for me, workplace cultures are they're communities. They're microcosms of our larger communities. And I think that mainstream business culture is often a place where we're expected to kind of turn that off traditionally and have sort of the professional life and the personal sort of switch that you turn on and off. And the reality is that that's not actually how human beings work. We're actually integrated, holistic humans, right? So I think that there's a shift in workplace culture, and my hope, what I need to believe is that there's going to be a shift more and more in that direction, where workplace cultures become more intentional, and they're more nurturing communities for their employees and their team, and that they're there really to serve their employees and serve their communities. And that's a big mind shift, I think, for business in general. And that's something that I want to be a part of co-creating with all the Kindship Group team is, well, what does it look like for us? And so when I think about the vision for Kindship Group, I want it to be, I want that to always be a big cornerstone of how we grow sustainably, so that we can serve our customers in a really right way. And then also preserve, some people call it work-life balance, but just an integrated lifestyle, which, is why we're remote by design. That helps the customer because we really have no boundaries. We're able to bring in team members and talent from anywhere and not have those constraints. And then we're also able to have team members who can be right where they want to be in the inspired life that they're living. They don't have to move. They don't have to sacrifice any of that. So those are some of the things I'm excited about seeing where things go. We also, down the road, I'm excited to keep exploring publishing. It's in my blood. And I think that's an area that I could see us developing like a Kindship. We already offer full service, like self-publishing support for authors, but actually becoming more of a publishing company would be really exciting to get that storytelling arm even more solidified. And I'd also like to see us have a foundation at some point. And then, as you and I have talked about a lot, what are the opportunities with products and things. So Kindship Group is, it is this agency right now that's really here for services. And I see a lot of opportunity in the future for different ways that we can be helpful in the movement.
That's beautiful. I think one of the things I really appreciate about your leadership style / what you're trying to build with Kindship Group is that a lot of agencies end up becoming these really brutal workplaces because you're just constantly trying to work, like encourage everyone to get in 60 to 80 hours because you need to keep up with all these tight deadlines and do all this amazing creative work and serve all these clients and so on and so forth. And it can burn people out pretty quickly, especially like creative people who need to feel more emotionally happy to do their best work and be rested and so on and so forth. But I think what you have been creating with Kindship is a little bit more intentional in that you're not just trying to build a great experience for the clients, you're also trying to build a great experience for the team. And on one of our other episodes, we talk about the value of connection before content. So I'll just plug one of the things that I think is beautiful about the Kindship Group team meetings is that we always take the time in the beginning, even if it takes up sometimes half the meeting, if it needs to, we take the time to make sure the team members are connecting and kind of sharing their stories and their life and, checking in with each other before we dive into the project to-do lists. And I think that little methods and little habits like that, I think really create a whole different culture that probably is how you've been able to have teams that kind of collaborate for so long, like your Edible Madison team, having that same core team for like 10 years and having this group of collaborators that you've worked with for your whole career that are excited to jump in on this with you. So just wanted to give a little hat tip to you that I think that's beautiful what you're trying to create. And it is pretty unique for those who've worked in those kind of brutal agencies would totally appreciate the fact that you're trying to make it a great experience for all.
Oh, thank you, Gage.
Well, thank you again for taking a little time out to chat with us on Evolve CPG about your career and all the beautiful things you're working on. And we're looking forward to seeing where the Kindship Group goes, both selfishly as part of the Kindship Group, but also as a show that's, in support of mission-driven businesses and brand leaders. So thank you again.
Thank you so much. This was so much fun.
Subscribe to our podcast and YouTube channel for more innovator interviews, expert advice, and leadership discussions. If you like this episode, hit that like button and share it with your colleagues. And of course, send us feedback and ideas for who we should talk to next at evolve@modernspecies.com. And learn about our new online community at evolvecpg.com. See you next week.